I'll never forget the sound of red wine hitting my face. Not the taste, not the cold shock on my skin. The sound. That sharp splash followed by a woman's laughter slicing through the room like she'd just landed the perfect joke. My fingers were shaking so badly I almost dropped the pen, but I signed the divorce papers anyway right there, under a crystal chandelier surrounded by people who couldn't wait to watch me fall. Across the room, my husband Caleb stood with his arm around another woman, smiling like tonight was a celebration instead of a public execution. And me, I was the entertainment. The charity case. The poor girl who'd somehow wandered into a world she was never meant to touch. That's what they thought. What none of them knew. Not Caleb, not his vicious mother, not his smug father, not the crowd sipping wine and whispering, was that a few hours earlier I'd gotten a phone call that quietly rewrote my entire life. A call that would turn their laughter into panic. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me rewind. The Hawthorne estate looked unreal that night, like something straight off a holiday postcard. Snow drifting down in thick, slow flakes, the kind that make everything look softer than it really is. Warm light pouring out of floor-to-ceiling windows. Guests arriving in tailored coats and designer dresses, handing keys to valets like it was nothing. I stood at the side entrance in a plain gray sweater and a coat I'd owned since college, watching it all like I was peeking into someone else's movie. I'd been married to Caleb Hawthorne for 5 years. 5 years of grinding through double shifts freelance work late nights while he talked about building something big. 5 years of his mother Lorraine reminding me I didn't belong. 5 years of his father Richard treating me like background noise. 5 years of his sister Paige posting cryptic captions online about people who should stay in their lane. I was an orphan. Foster homes donated clothes, learning early how to survive without asking for much. When Caleb noticed me at the bookstore where I worked, when he said he loved how grounded I was, how real, I thought I'd finally gotten lucky. Yeah, that was my first mistake. Lorraine opened the door that night wearing a sleek black dress and diamonds that caught the light just right. She didn't smile. "You're late," she said, scanning me like she was inspecting damaged goods. "The guests are already inside. Try not to embarrass us. No, hello, no Merry Christmas, just instructions." I nodded like I always did and stepped into a house that never once felt like home. Inside it was all laughter and low music. Men talking about investments and expansion plans, women comparing ski trips and private schools. I moved through them with a tray of glasses invisible unless someone needed something. I spotted Caleb near the fireplace and my heart still did that stupid little thing even after everything. He looked perfect in his tailored suit, but he wasn't alone. A woman stood beside him, tall, confident, wearing a silk dress that fit her like it was custom-made. Her hand rested easily on his arm. Her name was Evelyn. I'd heard it before. Paige loved mentioning her always with that sugary tone that meant something sharp was coming. "She's perfect for Caleb," she'd once said. "Educated. Comes from a real family. Not like some people." I pretended I hadn't heard. Pretending was kind of my specialty. Richard cornered me near the kitchen, his breath heavy with expensive whiskey. "You know what you are, don't you?" he said quietly, smiling like he was being generous. "A favor. We let Caleb marry you because he felt sorry for you, but favors expire." I tried to say something about how I'd helped, how I'd supported him. He cut me off with a small laugh. "You worked a cash register. You cleaned apartments. Don't confuse effort with value." My hands clenched around the tray. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to do anything. Instead, I walked away, jaw-tight, eyes burning. Survival teaches you when to stay quiet. Then Caleb cleared his throat and asked for everyone's attention. The room went still. He stood, slightly elevated Evelyn, right beside him. I felt it in my gut before he said a word. 5 years ago, he began, I made a decision based on emotion, not logic. Tonight, I'm correcting that mistake. His eyes locked on mine. He pulled out a folder. Divorce papers, right there, in front of everyone. "I want clarity," he said. "No confusion about where we stand." Faces turned toward me. Some awkward, most curious. Phones coming out. Lorraine stepped forward, lips curled in satisfaction. "Sign them," Richard said loudly. "You came in with nothing. You leave with nothing." Paige was already filming, laughing under her breath. Evelyn leaned close as I approached and whispered, "Look at you. You really thought you belonged." Caleb handed me the pen. Prenup. 0 assets, 0 compensation. I barely had time to process it before Lorraine lifted her glass and threw the wine straight at my face. It soaked my sweater, dripped onto the marble floor. "That's for wasting my son's time," she snapped. I signed. My signature looked wrong, shaky like it didn't belong to me anymore. Caleb pressed a few $100s into my hand. "For transportation," he said, like he was doing me a favor. Security grabbed my arms and walked me out as guests whispered and laughed. Somewhere near the gate, my ring slipped off my finger into the snow. I didn't stop to look for it. I ended up at a late-night diner miles away, staring at a cup of coffee I couldn't afford to refill. My phone was dying. My account balance was laughable. I was crying so hard my chest hurt. That's when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. "Ms. Carter," a calm voice said. I told her she had the wrong person. "Your legal name is Lena Marie Carter," she replied, "but your birth name is Lena Marie Whitmore." I hung up. Scam, I thought. Then she called again, said she was outside. Through the window, I saw a black sedan. 2 people stepped out. They sat across from me like this was the most normal thing in the world. They showed me documents, photos, DNA results, a picture of a woman who looked exactly like me holding a newborn. "That's your mother," the woman said gently. "Your father is Daniel Whitmore, founder of Whitmore Holdings, billion-dollar company." I laughed because what else do you do when your brain can't catch up? My father was dying, they said. Months left. He'd been searching for me for decades. An hour later, I was riding in a car nicer than anything I'd ever touched, heading to an estate that made the Hawthorne place look modest. Daniel Whitmore was frail oxygen tank beside him. He looked at me and broke down. He told me about my mother, about losing me, about never stopping the search. "I failed you," once he said. "I won't again." But there was a problem. His brother had taken control of the company, draining it quietly. If I appeared now, it could get dangerous. We needed time. I agreed. With one condition. I wanted the Hawthornes exposed. The next 2 months changed everything. Tutors, advisors, investigators. I learned the business inside and out. I learned how to walk into rooms like I belonged there. What we found about Caleb was ugly. Debt, bad deals. His marriage to Evelyn wasn't about love. Her family connections were keeping him afloat. Lorraine was drowning in gambling losses. Richard was under investigation. Paige had scandals she'd paid to bury. And Caleb had taken money I'd saved, forged documents, wrecked my credit. I didn't explode. I got precise. I became someone new. Claire Monroe. Investor. Different hair, different posture. When I offered funding to Richard's company, none of them recognized me. The boardroom was surreal. Caleb kept staring like something was familiar, but he couldn't place it. Lorraine insisted on a celebratory dinner at the estate. I walked through those doors dressed in quiet confidence. They laughed about some nobody Caleb used to be married to. Every word recorded. Then my father collapsed. I rushed to the hospital. He squeezed my hand and whispered, "Finish it." I called an emergency shareholder meeting. Media invited. Investors present. I walked onto the stage, removed my glasses. "My name is Lena Marie Whitmore," I said. "I am Daniel Whitmore's daughter." The room erupted. Evidence rolled out. Arrests made, deals frozen. Assets seized. I terminated leases, pulled funding, exposed lies. Caleb looked like the floor had disappeared beneath him. My father passed days later holding my hand. Months after that, Whitmore Holdings was mine. Cleaned up, ethical, profitable. I built programs for kids like I'd been. The Hawthornes lost everything. And that winter, standing in the snow, I finally understood something. They didn't break me. They showed me who I was. So tell me, was it justice or revenge? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all. And if you've ever been underestimated, remember this. Sometimes the people who laugh the loudest are standing closest to the edge.